But hey, everyone, since there is no official podcast for the week of July 23rd, 2020 TCC podcast, we decided to do something a little different. Sadly, Mino is having some internet outages in his area, and Mark is still having some technical issues. So we cannot record our usual podcast this week. I'm sorry. But because we have so much stuff that's going on this week, and next week's probably going to be a loaded episode too, we decided that we still wanted to record something. We still wanted to go over the new characters. We still wanted to go over the fights. So we're doing something a little looser, a little off the cuff, and I invited some guest hosts on to talk about everything that's dropped this week, everything that's dropping tonight, and get some input from them on everything they think that's been going on. It's going to be a little bit looser, a little bit more freeform. I'm not going to be doing all the news stuff, so sorry, everyone. But hopefully, this will help satisfy you guys on everything DFFOO for the week. Um, we'll see how things go. I will be hosting live for you guys and maybe recorded later. We'll see if Mark's able to post this up to our usual services later. But hey, tonight it's me, Kriese, hosting, and I am joined by Aarolei. Aarolei, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic today.
Okay, that's great. I also have Black Cloud back for a second week in a row. Black Cloud, how are you doing?
I'm depressed. Halo Infinite looks like ass.
Oh, well, maybe there's more to life than just Halo.
Nah.
Maybe? No? No?
Nope.
Nope.
Nah, it's over.
Okay. Well, maybe you can give us a little bit of hope for DFFOO at least. And
Maybe.
returning for the second time to the podcast, Macnol, who runs Dissidia Info, who writes boss guides. He does the call to arms. He does Choco board mission panels, guides. He does all sorts of fun stuff in the background. Macnol, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm especially happy that I managed to join you tonight because apparently I'm taking the place of somebody called Mancall.
I am sorry about that typo. I just discovered how to edit the stream title like minutes before you joined, and Mancol was the first thing that I wrote typographically errored. So Mancol was replaced with Macnol on very short notice. But hey, we have you instead, so great.
Yay!
I am excited to have you.
Me too.
Okay, guys. So I think first thing we should talk about is Sherlotta, because this is going to be really, really fast, honestly. I think there isn't much to say about Sherlotta, because let's just be real. Sherlotta. Oh, Jin Lee is my idol on this thing. That's Mino Spellgood, who cannot talk because he has no internet. Mino is poking in because Discord audio is the only way he's able to listen to this conversation. I cannot do a Mino impersonation to save my life. Please don't ask me to do that. But Mino is hoping to listen in tonight and give some input. So he is listening into Discord because Twitch will not cooperate. And because he lost a bet with Jin Lee a few weeks ago, he had to change his Discord name to Jin Lee as my idol. It is almost over, but he is suffering through that. And thank you for all the subs, everyone, God of Cloud and Laventine, who are sending them in. So, quickly, Sherlotta. Sherlotta does the same thing that she did before, except she does it better. She has more bravery gen. She has more healing than before. Healing. So that's pretty much it. And she starts with all her buffs up. That's all I have to say about her. She's as strong as she was before. She just builds up faster. Does anyone have any thoughts to say about her? When I said this is going to be freeform and much shorter, I really did mean that. Sherlotta is as powerful as she was. She just is much stronger than before. The same old Sherlotta.
I'd say that her brave gains got a stealthy boost with her passives because since she got self attack up along with party aura attack up. That in her I think it's her skill 2 and EX that both scale on attack. So her skill 2 used to like battery a lot, but now combined with that extra, I think it's what 80% attack total. Don't quote me on numbers because I never know. But she gets like a fat bump in her batteries just by virtue of stat buffs. That's pretty good.
Yeah, she does get a decent stat gain now. With her full realization, we don't usually go into numbers, but since BC asked, Her realization gives her an additional 60% attack bonus, just base, and then Light of Creation gains an additional 60% party attack bonus. So yeah, it's a pretty sizable bonus.
Yeah, it's fat.
I did purple Sherlotta. So yes, her battery on her skill 2 is much more noticeably improved inside and out of synergy. It's pretty strong. It's a pretty reliable battery. You don't have to. One thing I have noticed is that you don't need to always lead with another skill into skill 2 to battery the party substantially in order to notice the brave gain and get a good large HP attack out of it. It still helps, but it's not the only thing you need anymore.
I want to note that even though it looks like on paper, like when you look at what the EX plus bonuses are, they don't look like a lot. In practice, you really do notice these number changes, like how much better the batteries are in general from her. And I really like the new HP plus attack she got for like one turn. That one's really cool, and it hits really hard. So that's nice to have that. So you can shave off completely the targets when you gravity them now. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, that is nice. Oh, sorry, Macnol, was that you?
Yeah, I'd like to add, just in case we have any listeners who started playing recently and are not very familiar with her kit, she's a great gravity shaver. She can really shave down a lot of bravery due to her EX. And she's a great battery. But more importantly, something that we did not have, we were not used to think about Charlotta as a unit to go to when you have to face a boss with a very tight turn requirement. Now she's a very good tool for that, as her fight showcased, because she can cut down your turns a lot, even if she doesn't have as much explicit free turns as some other characters. Just the fact that she makes your other party members deal much more damage with her HP damage buff makes you take much less turns, much fewer turns to complete a fight.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Her damage amplification is really nice, and I think it's still unique to her. No one else applies damage amplification as reliably. Fang still has it on her additional ability, but that's very limited in its benefit.
Yeah, the closest thing we have right now is Kai's improving HP damage on chase only. She's the most universal unit who can do it to any attack.
Yeah, so she is nice. She's definitely not needed anymore. She went from being a very solid early chaos powerhouse because she provided so much benefit. She's now a mid to late chaos solid contributor to fights, is the way I've seen it. One of her big weaknesses is that she's not a reliable brave shaver, so you need to make sure for a lot of fights that you either work around her limitations, like you make sure she has her EX ready when you need to get that shave out, or you bring someone who can reliably brave shave more frequently. Because outside of that, she isn't brave shaving a lot. So keep that in mind, guys.
Oh yeah, we definitely want to point out too, because the brave attack she has does not do any brave hits. It literally just batteries the team. So that is something to keep in mind if you needed to do like a last minute break, but can't really afford to do an HP attack, for example. So another thing just to have to build around with her, because she's kind of like Lilith that way, where like she doesn't have a lot of brave hits on what she does.
While she does have the brave sap, I would not rely on that brave sap for brave shaving in those big cases. For example, on her own bosses, when they brave build, if you bring her with other characters who cannot brave shave reliably, you're not getting through their brave before they unleash their big attacks. And that's an important point to make. Do not rely on her as your primary source of brave shave.
We have a nice question in chat. Jeff Leopard asks, if she uses her EX and you don't immediately use her HP++, can you keep it for another turn?
The answer is yes. You will save it until you use it. It works just like Beatrix's HP+++ that she gets after using her EX.
Or like Zidane's mug?
Yeah. Basically, until you use it, it sticks around. So it's something that, for example, in my couple experiments with Sherlotta, I've gone with EX immediately into skill 2 to get that huge brave amplify, that high brave amplified skill 2 damage, and then used her HP plus on the next turn, where I don't already have a nice pool of brave saved up.
I'd say that's a big quality of life improvement the game added in recent characters, because I used to hate some characters like, for instance, Sephiroth, who just after using his EX, you are immediately forced to use the free skill or you lose it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And those HP plus variants usually stick around for a while. And Slides bring up a good point, is that with these changes from her EX realization, Sherlotta friends can now just spam skill 2 if they want, because they start with all their buffs up, they have the damage amplification up, so you can just spend 4 turns spamming skill 2, because she usually braves enough, she generates enough brave on that it's a reliable button to push.
You know, you could even just use the EX at some point in between, probably too, and just go into another one of those skill 2s right afterwards, and then use all 5 turns pretty efficiently. I do like that. I did use a few friends Sherlottas for fun, and she feels really good being able to do that, not having to waste 2 turns now just to set up fully.
Yeah, Sherlotta's definitely got a lot of nice quality of life improvements. If you're expecting a whole new revamped Sherlotta, though, this is not it. She got a lot of nice tweaks, but her base kit is still the same. Any other thoughts about Sherlotta, or shall we move on to Rydia?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rydia got actually more sizable rework than Sherlotta did, but the thing is, the way she works didn't actually change too much. She's still the same old Rydia, she just does it a lot better. I mean, she got more skill uses. What was it? She only gained 1 or 2 additional skill uses, I think. Arrow, do you know the exact number?
She's at 9 total flares and 6 total Leviathans. I think she gained like 2 more flares and 1 more Leviathan cast.
Yeah, so 15 total skill uses between both, so it's a nice boost she can spam relatively reliably now. She could spam decently before, but she can do it better now. Big changes she got. She can apply water resist down a lot more reliably. She can maintain water enchant on her party a lot more reliably because her buffs now last longer. She now applies water resist down from 2 sources because Summon Leviathan and Summon Dragon now both do it. If you fully realize her Subjugating Strength from Summon Dragon now applies water enchant to the party, so she has 2 sources of water enchant, which means that she's also amplifying all water magic damage along with enchanting water damage. She gets a very strong HP plus effect, which is multiple brave hits, 3 brave hits, which is relatively uncommon. Flare now does HP splash damage. She got just the usual quality of life improvements, the just usual things, more brave hits, more splash damage, that sort of thing. So overall, Rydia's kit didn't change much. She just got huge improvements for everything. She's just a better enchanter or imperiler. She does more damage, so she's a much stronger mage that is a much more reliable slot in for that enchanter imperiler role. I don't know if she's the best enchanter imperiler. I actually did not fully realize her, but she does what she needed to do better now. And with a much faster recasting, or a faster recasting EX, Arrow, you'll have to let me know exactly how much faster it is now. But it is faster now with her realization, so she can rely on it more frequently than she could before. And she now has a dragon. That's a good quality of life improvement. She actually does summon her dragon when she uses her EX.
Okay, so I did purple Rydia. I do have a purple Garnet too. I'm going to tell you straight up, I somewhat kind of prefer Rydia in certain situations already because she's not ever hitting for ones. The recharge now is you can do 1 skill and then an HP or Brave plus, or you can do 2 skills to go right into the EX. So it feels like you're constantly just doing a lot of damage very quickly. But because for some reason Flare doesn't also have a Brave gain on it, like how Summon Leviathan does, you might want a battery for Rydia so she can actually pump out her full damage on Flare, because it is like only like 4 or 5 hits or something like that. So it's just 5 hits. It's 5 hits. My bad. So it's something to have to think about. But I used her in the Sherlotta Lost chapter with Porum, and that felt pretty good to do. So I imagine there's other battery choices like Quistis that's about to come out tonight, who will be an excellent choice with Rydia.
Yeah, Rydia, again, I didn't purple her. I decided to flip a coin on which one I wanted to purple, Sherlotta and Rydia, and I ended up going Sherlotta, but both seem very solid. I like Rydia's kit. She seems so strong. Black Cloud, do you have any thoughts on her?
No.
Thoughts?
I don't know anything.
Macnol,
I
any
barely
thoughts
know
on
how she
Rydia?
works.
Yeah, really, the impression I have, I do not have Rydia. I never pulled her EX ever. I'm not sure I would have purpled her or not, because I already have Garnet. But I think I talked to you earlier today. I think she's the first enchanter who can really, really carry her own weight in damage. Because as some Garnet users have already found out, if you don't pair Garnet with another support with good auras and increase her attack, she can hit really low, especially later in the fight. So if you count on Garnet for damage only, and you don't pair her with another support, you can be disappointed. Rydia, from what I have seen of her use, does not have that same weakness. Granted, she doesn't heal like Garnet, but once again, if you only trust Garnet, if you rely on Garnet only for your heals, you can also be disappointed a bit, because she takes a while to have her EX available and to be able to heal. So I'm not so sure I could simply say Garnet is a better enchanter. I think they are reasonably different, and you can see on your own roster whether you prefer one or the other.
Baron Albo actually asked a pretty good question in chat that Arrow and I and maybe Black Cloud and Macnol might want to take a stab at. Isn't damage and party enchant an awkward mix? Though, who ideally goes next to that? A support who deals big damage is their question. And honestly, the way I look at it is that a damage party enchant fills a solid slot there, because usually when you're looking, this is like a character you slot in first when you're looking for a team. You're like, okay, I want to bring a damage dealer that deals with that brings some party utility to the team. And for that, what you're thinking about is, okay, maybe not the first slot you fill in. I might be phrasing this wrong. With this, by filling in this slot first or second, what you're doing is you're leaving yourself open for a lot of different support options. For example, you can bring you're pretty much open to let yourself bring any healer you want, or any support you want. For example, if you bring Rydia as an enchant imperiler, you can bring any healer you want. You could bring Penelo, you could bring Hope, you could bring Amphmau, you could bring maybe Rosa. She's a little old now, but any healer you'd like. Anyone who could bring healing to the team that also brings some support options. Otherwise, they might not be bringing enough damage on their own to help fill that slot. And you also get around any damage type resistances that you'd be dealing with otherwise from those healers. And that's the way I think about it. Arrow, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so she also does provide, through her subjugating strength buff, additional max brave and attack to the party. So she isn't just a damage dealer who's just giving you guys like a big water enchant and imperil, to the team. So the way I think of her is like either a first or second slot myself. And then I've tried her with like Penelo. I've got who else did I've done Porum, I've done Aerith. Aerith is a really good consideration for her because they both can spam their EXs quite a lot, and Aerith also provides a lot of battery to Rydia, who needs it for getting the most out of her HP plus and her flare attack. And you also get additional overflow, of course, so that's always a really big bonus. So I feel like when building with Rydia, think of her more as maybe that first or second slot, and then like Kriese said, just add in pretty much any healer is almost going to work here and with Rydia and be able to do a little bit more damage because they'll be given an enchant in peril that they normally don't have anyway.
BC, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I really know nothing about Rydia. I'm sorry. I didn't even know she ignored defense on her EX until like this week.
Macnol?
I think you put it well. She covers the offensive part, so you can pair her with any defensive support, and you can be sure that the party will not be lacking on damage.
Okay. Yeah, and a couple people are pointing out that I might have misspoke when I said that 5DPZ has specifically said that most Enchanter and Parallers tend to be mostly damage-oriented, and Garnet's one of the few exceptions to that rule where she's a lot more support-oriented. So yeah, that's worth pointing out. Most of the Enchanted Parallers bring something else to the table. Fujin is a lot very high damage oriented. She brings some support options, but she's mostly damage, and she has launches on her EX, for example, but mostly damage. Raijin is a lot of damage.
You could say that about Lulu. She was supposed to be damage oriented. The big difference is she did not bring the damage.
That's a very good point, is that Lulu is like a bad Rydia for fire. Sorry,
also,
Lulu fans.
And also in Fujin's case, she has that amazing HP plus. Wow, yeah. I got no other words. I love those HP pluses where it splits the damage and gives it as bravery to your other two team members. I always love those.
Yeah, Fujin has a lot going for her. Rydia sacrifices some of that support option for just more damage, which is not bad. She, again, having the double enchant options means that her enchant will do more damage. She will amplify her party's damage more than Fujin will.
Right, and you are going to notice that double water in peril on certain units that maybe if you're in your second and third slots or whatever, that aren't always the best at damage, but you're going to notice a nice damage amplification on those choices.
Whew. Okay, I think that's all we had to say about Rydia. The last thing I want to talk about for this for this event was the fact that we also got a chaos fight for this that was actually a lot more challenging than it looked at first glance, unless you brought some very specific things to deal with it. Because this boss had a very simple pattern that could really destroy you if you did not deal with it properly. I'll quickly touch on the basic mechanics of it, but unless you want to, Macnol, but I think I'll just cover it.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so the basic idea is it's a two-way fight. Night Behemoths, they're annoying, but you just have to deal with them. They don't have too much health for Chaos, but if you let them go too strong, they can get obnoxious. The big thing is the Spineclads in the second wave, where big thing is that they're only weak to water. They absorb all elements except for lightning and water. They are high resist, melee, and ranged, so you're really limited in what you can bring to this fight unless you bring an Enchant Imperiler, water element or lightning element. You really only have Leviathan and Ramu as your summon options, and because of they have as I said, they have a very specific pattern. They always do one single target attack, then they immediately go into a charge attack where they fill themselves up with a lot of non-frame buffs, so you can push them off if you bring a debuffer, you can dispel them if you bring a dispeller, but they always follow it up with an all attack, where if you let them, they can kill you. I found that out after a couple attempts, very easily. One that's an all brave attack, but will be followed up with an instant turn rate HP attack, which will kill someone if they hit a broken target or break someone, or an all brave plus HP attack that will do a lot of damage that probably won't kill you if it doesn't break anyone, but if they do, both of them do it back to back, it will kill you. And then they'll follow it up with a couple turns and then repeat the pattern. Again, simple behavior, but it is obnoxious and gets very dangerous as their HP drops. Simple boss, obnoxious. What I found is that you have to shut them down by either easiest ways are bring an HP Disable, Arciela, Kefka, or you bring Eldnarsh and you shut them down because when they do their all attacks, Terror locks them out of doing anything, and then he just warps to take a bunch of free turns, and then they can't do anything. And if you bring an Enchant Imperiler such as Rydia or Garnet, then you get around that ranged high resist mechanic. So after I think I wiped to this for about 2 hours trying different teams that did not use a terror or HP attack disable mechanic to just do this the way it was meant to be done, I said screw it and brought Eldnarsh and destroyed it. Macnol, do you have any thoughts on something I might have missed on this fight?
No, you covered it pretty well. The basics of the fight are. I think you did not mention their elemental resistances. They absorb every element except thunder and water, and they have 90% damage reduction against melee and bravery and ranged attacks. So it's a fight that, since Rydia is boosted for this fight, she is featured on the banner, they decided to showcase how an Enchanter and Imperiler can really open up a team composition, because if you don't bring an Enchanter or Imperiler for those specific elements, Thunder and Water, you are basically, it cuts down your roster by 2/3. You cannot bring any physical damager, except a few exceptions, like for instance Lightning, who can imperil her own element, and she's lucky she's Thunder element.
I just want to say I hate this fight. It's so simple in the pattern, but they just do so much brave damage when they do those tail attacks. So I normally try different things, but I just got sick of it and busted out Porum with Rydia and just said, screw this. So I just went and ate the attacks and just played really aggressively and managed to win that way.
On my end, this fight reminded me why I like using Synergy. It's like, oh my god, this is annoying. I just busted out Sherlotta, Zac, and Garnet and called it a day. I didn't feel like bashing my head against this one when I had the tools.
So yeah, when I wrote the guide for this fight to put on dcdinfo.com, I always try to bring none of the boosted characters to have a feeling of how it would be if I tried that fight as somebody who did not pull and did not want to spend any resources on the fight. So right out of the gate, you are forced to use Garnet, basically, or Rydia, to open up your teams if you want to bring anybody who is physical damage. And if you don't, you are restricted to just a few magical damage units who are not elemental. So that's a great fight to go back to what you said earlier about Rydia, to show why you would bring an Enchanter. Usually it's just a unit who makes everybody else deal more damage, but if you have any kind of resistance for weapon types, for melee, ranged, or magic, an Enchanter can make you bypass it completely. It will just ignore that resistance as long as you're hitting a weakness in elemental. So apart from that, there are some ways to cheese this fight to make it extremely easier, and it's not even funny if you bring, for instance, Eldnarsh. Like you said, Kriese, they are very predictable. They can lock themselves into guaranteed all attack on their third turn. And if you lock them down with Terror and you know how to manage Eldnarsh's buffs and debuffs, you can complete that wave, win the fight without them taking any other action. They will just not touch you anymore. That's so ridiculous that when I was playtesting the fight for the Extreme Challenge, I did not bring an Enchanter. I brought Eldnarsh with 2 other non-boosted characters without an Enchanter. He was dealing crappy damage the whole fight. He was resisted. He dealt 10-15k at most damage per turn. And yet I completed the fight. I would have even completed all objectives, including turn count if I'd used the summon. But it just completely shows how broken this character is if you know how to use it. And just like him, Kefka and Arciela, since finally the game decided to stop resisting HP silence and HP attack disable, they also can be used to always shut down the bosses. You can inflict HP disable as soon as they charge. You will push off some of their buffs, and you will make sure that even if you are broken, they will not be able to kill you, to do any HP damage, so you have extra time to shave them down and kill them without any problems. The only other tip I would have to complete this fight, if you are not bringing any of these cheese units, is to be very careful when both of these enemies are on red health or under 50% HP, because if you see both of them align all attacks and charge simultaneously, that's the perfect time to summon, to stop them from breaking and killing you, to give you a lot more time to shave them down, perhaps even kill one of them, because they don't enrage. You can kill one first and it's not a problem. And if you don't do that, if you underestimate their damage, and you let both of them do all attacks on you, even if you are not broken, they can use Spear Ray twice in succession, each one of them will use it, and kill you easily, because Spear Ray, when they are at red health, can easily deal more than 9-10k of damage to each party member, even if you are not broken. So yeah, respect the fight. It's not an easy fight. It's not trivial unless you bring some specific units who can trivialize it, like the boosted units or those cheesy HP attack disablers.
Oh, I did actually think of something else that might be worth mentioning on this boss, is that you can kill one and the other one doesn't get enraged.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's so rare that you do not see a no enrage mechanic, but yeah, these do not enrage.
I actually watched a video of a guy who did exactly that. He mainly focused on one and killed it, and the other one is still like half alive, but the fight became much easier after that, and he won in like 10 turns after that. It was crazy. He just summoned and just absolutely annihilated the second one. So if you're having any trouble, consider that strategy as well, since killing one of them means that's one less huge tail whip you've got to deal with.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Thank you for emphasizing that. Just be careful that if you have a team that is very focused on dealing group damage, if you kill one first, your damage per turn will drop off, and you might not be able to complete it in turn count. So just think about that.
BC, you've been quiet during this. Do you have any thoughts on the fight?
Analysis isn't my forte. It really isn't. I'm searching for words to say here, but you guys are, especially Macnol is so well spoken, and he's covering it all. I don't really know what else to say, but I destroyed it. I don't know.
I mean, I did spend almost 24 hours doing this fight non-stop to write a guide. So yeah, if I don't have anything good to say about it, I can just quit.
Yeah, for real.
Hey, Macnol, do you know then what Infamous Element's talking about here about an HP attack that they'll use depending on their HP at the time of using it?
Oh yeah, I touched on it briefly. When they are under 50% HP, they are much more prone to using their Spear Ray. So it's actually a way they can lower your defenses and make you feel secure to drop your guard. And then if you just count on, I can survive, I have high bravery, they're not going to break me with Sword Tail, so it's safe. Then both of them use Spear Ray in succession and kill you outright. So yeah, it's very important. So if you bring down both of them to under 50% HP, please be careful. You can die. Even if you are full health, you have high bravery, and if they don't break it, but they can still do so much HP damage, because like every Chaos boss, when they drop down their HP to 80% and to 50%, they gain invisible auras, they gain stat increases, they start dealing much more damage. Their max bravery increases, their attack increases, and they can kill you outright.
Okay, I think that is it for Sherlotta Chaos. Anyone have any last thoughts on it before we move on? Okay, the last character on that banner, in case I know a couple people mentioned it in chat, but the last character on the banner was Seymour. I don't know how many people are actually using Seymour for this chaos.
I mean, he probably could be pretty good, though. He is a non-elemental debuffer. And he has that whole thing where he can spam a bunch of HP attacks. I could see that being pretty good with Sherlotta if you happen to have her also.
Some people were using Seymour, but not many. Seymour is as popular as Squall and Zidane for this. So, not
Yikes.
that popular.
Oh, but Zidane is a really good unit here. Don't count him out. As long as you bring an enchanter, he's great. He can. Yeah, sorry. You just reminded of another detail worth noting about this fight. They are fast. Like it's been a trend for almost. I think it's over a month now that we have been facing chaos bosses who are very fast, and the game expects you to bring somebody with a speed down debuff, and we are going to see it even more in the next fight.
Like Laguna.
Yeah, I use Zidane for this fight. I will vouch highly for him if you bring an enchanter.
Hey. So, along with that banner, and I think we'd be remiss if we did not mention this, there was another banner that dropped at the same time, and there was a co-op that dropped at the same time as this. There was the third summer banner that dropped that had Aranea, Beatrix, and Ignis on it. So this was the return of Aranea. So if you want Aranea and you missed her the first time, this is the time to get it. It also has a costume for Aranea based on her outfit from the Prompto DLC for Final Fantasy XV. It takes off her helmet and it puts her in some nice winter gear. I believe my co-hosts have bought the costume. I have not bought it.
I don't have money to buy it right now.
I think it's a whack costume.
Couple things about Aranea. I know that there's been some word going around that Aranea might not be worth it now. I think the general consensus around the co-hosts, I won't put words in Mino and Mark's mouth, but I think the general consensus is that Aranea is still very, very strong. She's not the dominatrix she was back 6 months ago when she first released.
What a phrase to use. I don't think that was the right thing to say.
She's not going to dominate the game like she did 6 months ago, but she's still incredibly strong. Her unique debuff is still amazing. I mean, she's not alone in that role because now Saz is also now doing crit damage amplification. But surprise, surprise, they can actually now amplify each other. So he does not exclude her being useful. Is a good way to put it. She's still very strong.
Well, look, she still has turn delay, and Brave Reduction is not going to stop her because of that whole Vital Crusher debuff thing.
That is true. She still has turn delay. She still has free turns. She still has a lot of power in her kit. So do not think that she is not going to see use going forward. She is just not going to dominate every fight going, is the best way to put it. Because now there are going to be characters with massive stat increases coming out. Will be able to push her out if you do not want to make her necessarily. I think that's a fair assessment, don't you guys think?
Brian brought up a good point in chat. She's still obnoxious during co-op. That is a great reason. Skip her if you don't have her. Absolutely. Stop polluting the co-op with Araneas. We don't want to play with them. Well, actually, that's not true. This co-op is an exception. But if you're gonna use her, don't keep spamming High Wind in the second wave, please. Use Dragoon Dive.
I mean, the best we can say about Aranea is that she has been so heavily power crapped that she now is finally at level with the best current characters.
I think that's a fair assessment. And one other thing I'll say about this banner is that This is a very, very good banner for Dimensions and Entropy. Beatrix and Ignis are both very strong characters to help clear floors. They're both solid supporting units. I still do not have Ignis's EX or even his 35 CP, but he is amazing because he can be used for debuff evasion and healing and just all around powerful support utility. Beatrix is amazing for damage and healing and just for avoiding HP attacks every once in a while if you fully her. So both of them are very solid characters to slot into DE tiers if you're still working on the tower. So combine that with Aranea, Ignis, Beatrix, Aranea, all three of them are very, very solid Dimensions and Entropy tenders if you're still working on that tower and you do not have them. So regardless on what you think on Aranea's usefulness going forward, all three of these characters are amazing for just Dimensions and Entropy in general.
Yeah, I see somebody saying Ignis, powerful. I think he's still pretty good, and he's a very good budget character for Tower. Like, you can just 0-3 him, have his base kit, and slam him into probably, up to maybe floor 8 or so in a party. I think that's a pretty good deal.
I mean, he works in what? He could work in 6, he could work in 8. Yeah, he's useful in several floors.
I'd put him in 7 or 11 myself, just because it's if you're lacking any kind of debuff immunity, that's his role.
Yoshi Pasta, no. Aranea is going to be banned TCC forever. I don't think that's fair, but probably forever. I think the general thoughts when the last time this question was asked, Mino's response was no. And I don't think that opinion has changed. Mino's not here to say yes or no. He might pop in chat and say and answer differently, but I think if he was here, he would say no. Okay. Hey, we're moving at a quick pace because we don't have Mino here. Anything else about the summer event? Make sure you complete the co-ops, guys. It's pretty straightforward. If you bring anyone other than Aranea and Ignis, so if you bring Beatrix to this, you just let your friends take your turns for you and you'll be fine. You can just take a 15-minute break every time you're not taking a turn. Be okay.
I think you said the important part is remember to complete the co-op, because they are shorter than usual, so make sure you don't miss the rewards. They have very good shops.
And also do not forget that right now there's 2 separate Chocobo mission panels sets up, because there's the Summer 2 and the second half of July up. I think we covered them last week, I don't remember, but there are 2 sets. They're both completable as of today, so do not forget to get them done. Macnol has guides on his site for both. I do not think the monsters for the July the second half of July one are in any of the just usual stuff you'll be doing during the Lost Chapter or the event. So, the Gale Cats are in Trey, but the mini machines I have not seen in anything, so you'll have to go farm those somewhere else, right, Macnol?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The machines for the late July mission panels, I think you just have to go get somewhere else.
Yeah, I haven't checked if they appear in the Lost Chapter, but they are very easy to find. I did
not get them from Sherlotta's Lost Chapter.
So yeah, you have to hunt them, but they are very, very easy to find. They are very gentle chocoboards to complete.
Speedy, I'm not drinking tonight. Sorry, guys. I'd let you know if I was drinking tonight. I have to be too responsible tonight because I'm hosting this.
I think you mean you don't need to drink because Mino is not here.
Say it ain't so. It's so. I have to be responsible. Okay, let's move on to the last thing we have to cover tonight. Last thing we're going to cover tonight is Quistis and Trey's rework. So Quistis' rework and Trey's release. I'll cover Quistis quickly because while she got a pretty sizable work, she works doesn't actually change that much. she still does the same thing she's always done. She just does it a lot better. So, yay for Quistis fans. I've never gotten her EX. I think I'm still sitting on her 15 CP only. I don't even think I have her 35 CP. So I'm not as excited about this as others, but hey, she got a lot more uses of Laser Whip now. Just a reminder for those who don't know, the way Quistis works is that she has a very powerful turn delay on her skill 2. She uses it when she wants to really mess with a single target, but primarily what she does is she leans heavily on her skill 1 and her Brave Plus, HP Plus, and her very, very fast charging EX attack. She does mostly single target damage. She applies turn rate down and speed down. That's her niche. And other than that, she debuffs to get her up, and that's it. She does damage. She's pretty simple. Her rework basically just made it so she lost a lot of her conditionals, and she is much more reliable on her utility. So she is a much better battery. She applies batteries on pretty much everything she does, just her skill 2. So that's really, really nice now. She has a battery on her skill 1. She has more uses of her skill 1. She batteries on her Brave Plus and HP Plus, so yay there. She gets a lot more Brave hits on her skill 2. So nice. If you realize her weapon, EX now loses the HP conditional because it was a joke that it had an HP conditional to begin with. It applies a new debuff that's an attack max brave debuff. Nothing too special. She starts with her instructor's whip buff. Ooh, the other nice thing instructor's gets is party brave overflow gain and stolen. She gets HP splash on homing whip. She batteries her allies with based on damage dealt at the end, and she starts each wave with she starts inflicting fading light on all of her targets at the beginning of each wave with that new debuff. So that's basically Quistis in a nutshell. She basically does everything better. She gets a lot more reliable battery, which is nice. So it's pretty cool. Oh, Final ASIM is asking, what's the difference between speed down and turn rate down? So, way speed works is that each character has a speed stat associated with them. Speed basically determines how quickly it takes for a character's action to come back. Speed is a basic stat. Some characters have very high speed, which dictates how quickly the turns come back. But along with that is another mechanic called turn rate that's associated with different skills. High turn rate skills dictate that it takes less time after a character acts for their next turn to come back, regardless on their speed. Basically, even if a character has a low speed stat, a high turn rate ability means it takes them less time for their action to come back than it normally would. And a low turn rate ability, which for most characters is non-existent, the exception being Cater. Cater has some low turn rate abilities. It means it takes longer than usual for their actions or for their next action to come back. In most cases, turn rate isn't as big a factor. Sorry, Macnol.
No, it's actually BC said.
Yeah, you said Cater.
Oh, sorry, I meant sync,
yeah.
not Cater.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, sync, not Cater. So speed, slowing an enemy down typically will mean that it'll take longer for their actions to come back. And inflicting turn rate down will further expend the amount of, or increase the amount of time it takes between actions. So if you apply both of those, then it basically multiplies the amount of time it takes between actions. Basically, it's a multiplicative factor. That's the reason Lightning is so fast, basically, because she has a high speed and a high turn rate. Same with characters like Jekt. Jekt has a high speed and a high turn rate abilities. That's the reason Lightning is known as a turn thief, because she gets conditional turn rate at high turn rates, which you can't calculate easily along with her high speed. That's the best way to think of it. Quistis, because she applies both speed down and turn rate down, actually makes it so enemies act less frequently than it would appear on the turn meter, because their actions actually will delay them further than it would appear. So she makes them slower than they normally. It's a good way to think about it. I think that covered everything. Macnol, did you have anything I had to add in there?
Yeah, I'd say that an important point is that they stack. So the fact that Quistis inflicts both kinds of speed down and turn rate down means that she really slows down enemies. Even if she doesn't delay them directly with the skill, she will be making them act less. And another important distinction is that speed down, since it affects the enemy the whole time, even if they are not acting, it is very strong even against slow enemies. While turn rate down, if you are delaying the enemy and not allowing them to take an action, will basically have no effect on them. So for enemies, for bosses mainly, who take lots of actions in quick succession with 2 or 3 turns in a row, you can inflict turn rate down to give you a breathing room between each of their actions, because every time they act, they will get penalized and make their next turn take a little longer to come.
Yeah, that's the best. I think that's a really good way of putting it. Not a lot more characters have speed down than turn rate down. Right now, it's what it is: Lion, Quistis. Anyone
Sync,
else?
Sync
Sync
does
has
it
turn
with
rate
her
down.
EX.
So 3 characters can apply turn rate down. So it's pretty infrequent to see that effect. Quistis applies both speed down and turn rate down, which makes her pretty unique among the cast.
Also, Quistis is the most consistent with the turn rate down, because Sync and Lion only get it through their EX. Quistis gets it on her skill 1. So it's way more on demand, and it's really potent. Sync's is potent, is just as potent. I did test. But it's less turns, and I mean, she's slow already, so just something else to think about.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is that if you're a fan of using Quistis, if you were a fan of using her back when she first got her EX and her back in the 60 era during early Cosmos and late EX era, you're going to love her now. She's basically just a better version of that kit. She hasn't drastically changed. She's just a much more reliable character because she does not have her HP conditionals anymore. She batteries the party with everything she does now. Um, she she still has the same basic auras, which means she's not giving your party a lot of benefits. Stat wise, you're gonna have to pair her with real support. She's more of a second slot character, I would say. In that way, you bring her to really deal with a boss mechanic, which is you have all these fast bosses we've been dealing with. She's gonna shut that down. Um, she's gonna bring damage to the party to help deal with that. And she'll also help by increasing Brave, Gain, and Stolen. You're not going to be bringing her to be your primary support unit. She'll be there to fill that second slot, is what I would say is her primary role.
And a note about playstyle: if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to pace yourself to be able to gauge how many skills to use or to save, you're gonna love Quistis because you can just spam skills and EX every turn.
The only skill you really need to save with Quistis is her skill 2. She only has total uses of it if you include a refresh from her additional ability. So you want to time that a little more carefully, but because her EX comes up so infrequently, you basically can go skill 1 EX, skill 1 EX, skill 1 EX ad hominem, and then throw in skill 2 when you want. DC, do you have any thoughts on Quistis, or is this another character you don't really care?
I think you meant ad nauseum right there.
Ad nauseum, yeah, sorry.
Why am I catching these things? I didn't purple Quistis in JP, so I'm looking forward to doing it this time around. I have a weird obsession with overflow auras, so I enjoy stacking them, and Quistis has a lot of that, which means her battery is going to be used to the max. Other than that, she is good for crippling the unit's speed, like you said, give you breathing room. I just think she looks pretty fun. I used her a lot in Cosmos, so glad to be bringing her back off the bench. And I plan to go for Garland in the future as well. So just doing all those speed down stackings is going to be a blast. Just seeing the boss get as little turns as possible.
Yeah, she's going to be a fun character. Definitely not like tip top powerful. She's going to be a solid character slot in there.
Yeah, she's just super well rounded. You really can't go wrong with her.
To me, she's almost like a new upgrade to like Bart's. I know they don't do the same thing, but like that whole idea about like aura and battery and then like the overflow thing, that I kind of like that a lot. And I feel like she's a really obvious upgrade to some of those things. And I mean, even now, like they kind of in the future use Quistis's battery thing as like the standard going forward for other characters of a similar type like this. So I'm really excited to purple her tonight.
Yeah, she'll be a fun character. Yeah, I'm probably going to skip her. I plan to skip this entire banner, but I definitely do not feel like she is. I'm skipping her for personal reasons, not because of any general dislike or think she's bad. I just don't really care as a
It's okay, Chris. We still love you even if you have bad taste.
character. Anything else about Quistis?
I'm going to just acknowledge what at Bucket Jokers is saying in chat. Yes, the correct pronunciation is Quistis, but I know Mark is not here with us tonight, so I'm making sure I will say her name wrong every time I can.
Okay, so now I have to move on to the part that I've been dreading all night because, oh boy, this is a mouthful of shit. Thanks. I'm gonna do a shout out to the Tonberry Troop because without them, I don't know how I'd explain Trey's kit. Because even with their infographic, I'm still trying to digest it after looking at it for a couple hours today. So I'll do my best, guys, and I'm gonna try to make this as digestible as possible. So here we go, and I'm gonna try to keep this short. So I'm not gonna get everything. I apologize ahead of time. I will link you guys. I'm going to do this right now in chat. I'm linking the Tonberry Troops infographic. I suggest you guys follow this on your own and try to figure out what the heck Trey does because good luck. The basic idea behind Trey's kit is that he is a build-up character. His skill 1, skill 2, and HP plus all have a timing to them, a timing build-up aspect to them. The more turns you spend not using those skills, the stronger they get, up to a maximum of 3 turns. So you don't spend them on the first turn, the second turn they will be at charge 1 state, on the third turn they will be at charge 2 state, and at charge 2 state they're at their strongest stance. Basic idea is they get stronger each time, and if you use them in their strongest form, they're basically at power. His first skill, Raining Arrows, is an AoE attack that gives him an ability, an effect called Arrow Shower, where several turns after its use, it will do an AoE Brave plus HP attack at the end of every turn as long as there is an Arrow Shower stack still up. Notable thing here is that it loses a stock every time it is used. So basically, you get more stacks the more charges Raining Arrows has when you use it, and you lose. So basically, you can build it up and use it more if you wait longer to use it. It also batteries each time it's used, so you can get a lot of battery off of waiting to use it until it's fully charged. That's the basic idea behind it. Build up Raining Arrows to charge 2, then you get 3 turns back to back, regardless on whose turn it is, of battery each turn from just free AoE Brave plus HP attacks. His skill 2 is Dynamite Arrow, which is a single target attack, Brave plus HP attack, that will deal HP splash damage if you build it up to charge 2, and inflict a dynamite effect only to one target unless you get it to charge 2, and then it'll inflict it to all targets. It has a 2-turn timer on it, and once it expires, it does a Brave plus HP attack. That also gives Trey Brave back based on HP damage dealt. Okay, his HP plus attack basically gives him more Brave and does more damage based on how many charges it has. And he also has a party battery on his Brave plus. That's the only important. His EX ability, if you fully realize it, is a double AoE Brave plus HP full, not full HP damage. It's AoE Brave plus HP attack that does a special unique debuff to the enemy that does Fatal Arrow, which basically makes it so that all Brave attacks on that target will break the target regardless on its Brave state. So it's kind of like Twins Sonic Fang's EX ability, except it's on a debuff. It's applied to the target, and also does Brave damage amplification to broken targets. So that's the cool thing. His EX realization also gives him starts him in a charge 1 state for his skill 1 and skill 2. I think those are the important aspects of Trey. The basic way you want to work with Trey is that you want to try to build him up to the charges as much as possible, because you want to make the best use of his skill 1 and skill 2 where possible. Skill 1 and skill 2 in charge 2 state are much more potent than they are in lesser states. You get much more potent effects, especially in multi-target situations, than you otherwise. And that's the important thing on Trey. Wind up and payoff. He is a payoff character. So make sure you do that. I think those are the important things. Does anyone know Trey better than that? Because I genuinely do not know him that well. BC, did you have him at all in JP? Did you get any experience with him?
So I pulled him because I wanted Quistis, and then ended up not purpling either of them, but I kept them both at 0 out of 3. He was a strong unit even at 0 out of 3, which really spoke to his strength. I think I was able to put him in like tier 9, I think it was, at 0 out of 3, with like Papalimo and Pinello. So that he's a super strong unit, even if you don't have ingots. If you're looking for someone good in the tower, you could potentially abuse his mechanics, that being the instant break, and the brave damage up and the battery. Other than that, he's got a lot of details, like you just went through, obviously. But excuse me, in practice, it's really just keep pressing the skills in the same order and doing good damage. So it's another one of those things, like, okay, a lot on paper, kind of like Cam, but not too complicated in practice once you get it going. I think he's pretty cool. I'm not going to be pulling him in global just because I wouldn't use him. I can't see any scenario where I'd be using him. But he's definitely an extremely strong character, and those I know that used him a lot definitely got a lot of mileage out of him. He's just kind of nuts, all the utility.
Gotcha.
He's an enemy phase character somewhat. So I mean, we already know kind of like how good some of these have been in the past. We just recently got Cater, So if that kind of playstyle appeals to you, I think you will get a lot of use out of Trey. I know some people aren't very big on enemy phase characters. It's just better not to let them get a turn to some people. But if you are about fighting mechanics head on, I think he will be very, very good in those situations.
Macnol,
I have no experience with Trey from JP, obviously, because I only play global. First of all, I have 2 updates importantly from Mino. The first is he's still awake, because he just messaged me. The second is he wants really to make it clear that Trey has a charged kit. That's out there.
That was the extent of his comment. He has a charged kit?
Yes. He wanted to make sure that pun was heard, so I'm doing my part here.
Does he have anything more to add to that? Because that's lacking a lot of context.
That's it.
Okay.
But since BC touched on the fact that Trey has a very simple rotation, you don't have to think much about which button to push. You can just follow the script and press the skills in order, and you'll do great damage. I haven't played with him myself, but if I do pull him, I do believe the part where you have to think with Trey is how you plan your next turns, your following actions based on the effect of his traps. Because the fact that he is going to deal brave damage or break an enemy right after your action it changes a lot on how you plan your actions and how you need or do not need to play safe sometimes.
a fair point. Yeah, it's hard to talk about Trey because none of us have any practical experience on him, seeing as his banner just popped a couple minutes ago.
Well, good news. I decided to do the 13-ticket challenge, and I am now the owner of a Trey EX, so I think we're going to try him out later.
Congratulations. I just did my free banner pull and got Quistis' EX, so I have to make some decisions on whether I'm going to do anything with that. At Pocket Jokers, thank you for and bits.
Seriously, that's hype. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, we can't talk. Do we have any other thoughts on Trey? The general idea seems to be that he is a very loaded, incredibly powerful. It's the last character we are going to get that is going to be EX plus only. Still, well, that's not true. We have Gabranth. Sorry. In about a month and a half, right, BC?
Yeah, and also if you're not counting the characters you get realizations.
I was just counting brand new characters. Yeah, we
Oh
sold
yeah,
a
brand
ton
new.
of
It's actually
realization
just
characters.
Gabranth, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting in Trey's kit that his traps do not take up any debuff slots. So he pairs very well with other debuffers, unlike, for instance, Emperor, some other trap characters who would conflict would see either they take up precious debuff slots or have their traps pushed off if they were generic debuffs. So since they are counters, one of them is on himself, another one is on the enemy. You can always be sure that they are going to happen. Even if you are facing a debuff immune enemy, his traps are always going to be able to be relied upon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Trey will be a solo character for any reason. We'll see how people feel after they face the chaos. None of us have obviously tried it yet, but I seem to recall Black Cloud.
Well, I
This is
have.
one of the worst chaoses we're going to see in a little.
Yeah, it's just obnoxious. It's not fun, I don't think.
We'll probably
It's
talk.
not very flexible.
Probably talk a bit about this next week on the podcast. I'll imagine Mino and Mark will want to talk about it.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how people deal with it because obviously the Japanese side, player side of this, the English speaking, is a very small sample size, so it's not very representative of the general player base. But from what I could gather from that side and on YouTube, there wasn't a lot of roster variety for this stage. So I am excited to see the ingenuity that comes from global players.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We obviously can't talk about the fight yet because none of us have actually done it ourselves, other than Black Cloud in Japan 8 months ago now, 6 months ago.
Oh, God, I'm old.
So we can't talk about that. That's it for the new characters, though, or the characters and realizations and reworks. Is there anything else we want to cover tonight?
I mean, did you want to field any questions or anything from the host? What is it? Podcast questions channel?
I do not have any big questions we need to cover right now. I did a large purge. For those who don't know, we have a podcast questions channel on our Discord. And I did a massive purge of it after last week's show. Because I did feel we'd covered a lot of them, and some of the ones we did not cover, I wasn't sure if I just forgotten us covering them or otherwise. One question I think we can cover tonight, if you guys are feeling Sife's question that he posted right after I purged the channel. With JP slowing down on new character releases, what picture do you draw of DFFOO's future? It's all characters. They can surely introduce new tiers and more raids and heretics instead of new characters, but no new characters to wait for. Do you think the end game of this game will in the future?
I think they'll just make new kinds of events to keep people playing, and of course, always introduce new reasons for you to pull. Because what else do you do in a gacha game? But I noticed that every, I guess, anniversary or so, they tend to introduce some sort of new like game mode. So like let's see, what is it like for the third year? You know, they basically announced, hey, Lufinia's coming. You know what I mean? Like things like that. So I can't see like the game, how to put this, like just going in it'll involve in some way, you know, like with new modes.
Probably. I generally seem to believe that, and also I don't think they're running out of characters. I think the slowdown we're seeing right now is more due to pandemic related reasons more than they've run out of characters to create. I mean, we still don't have Red 13 or Riku in the game, for gosh sake.
Minwoo is still missing. We still haven't gotten any Final Fantasy Mystic Quest characters. There's so many things I could think of that they could still add in.
We still at 2 Final Fantasy Tactics characters. Come on. There are still plenty of characters that they could add to the game.
Yeah, we can easily compare default to Brave Exvius, and we can see they can milk a lot more from secondary characters. There's a huge roster they have not touched yet. But I love that Arrow mentioned something that I usually think about, but I don't usually talk about it so much. Opera Omnia has such huge potential to spread out from just doing lost chapters and boss events and story chapters with the same format every time. They have the tools, they have a great combat system, they have lots of good characters. They could implement some other game modes, like, for instance, the original Deciduous Labyrinth. They could add randomized maps. They could add different kinds of events where you have to explore an area and maybe complete quests and push buttons, open different paths, and they could do so much more. They are just resting on their laurels, repeating the same format every time, that I think we should stop thinking just about how can they bring new characters, more weapons, and more about how they can make the other characters relevant. The characters you already have, make them relevant in a different context. That's a good change that's coming in Japan, for instance, because they are adding the ability to call your other members from your roster, besides your main party, for just a turn to execute an action and help you out. So you can involve more of your characters than just the 3 who are currently in battle. They could do different things like that, like Abyss, for instance. Abyss was a good addition because it made you use different teams and forced you to use something else you're not used to putting on the field. But they could do other things, other ways to interact with the map, to create different challenges than just beating a fight and that's it.
People are saying non-Final Fantasy related characters. They're not going to drop non-Final Fantasy related characters. Sorry, guys. I think that's the only question we're going to answer tonight. I looked through the channel, and the others are all LGBT related. Unless people want to answer some of those, I think we're going to... I mean, we can answer Eamon's question. What do you do if you reach 300G tokens and don't get the LD or the EX? BC, do you have any actual practical experience with this?
No. I like to act like that will never happen. If I did, I just keep throwing tickets probably, or gems. I don't know. At that point, you're just gonna have to gamble. There's no real good answer to that.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough situation. I'd probably grab the LD because at least you can eventually weapon token the EX. I mean, maybe late, but at least you could do it eventually. So I would probably take the LD just because it's more rare.
I guess it would depend at what time you're talking about. Are you at the point where you've already saved enough resources that you could get the EX from the weapon token shop? Is it early enough on that you don't have the resources to get the EX? Or have you also or did you burn resources and you can't afford the EX from the weapon token shop? It's one of those tricky things, yeah.
Just get better RNG.
Learn to pull better.
Yikes.
Yeah, this is one of those tricky things. You hope it doesn't happen. And if it does, you'll have to make a decision on what to do. I can see if you get to 300G tokens, you don't have the LD or the EX. I get the feeling what I would do in that situation is I'd probably switch to tickets and see which comes first.
Yeah.
I think that's all we'll answer tonight. We did a lot of talking about LGBT last week, and we're not going to talk. We're going to be talking a lot about LGBT next week, so we're going to not talk a lot about LGBT tonight because I think
Good
everyone's
call.
going to get tired about it if we talk too much about it going into it. So I think we'll actually call it a short stream tonight. But
Why's it
thank you
gotta be
everyone
short?
for coming out. I'm glad we were able to cover these topics because otherwise we would have not known what to do next week. So I really appreciate it, you guys, for popping in and chatting with me briefly.
It was great. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure Mino and Mark enjoyed a little vacation too.
Yeah, glad to help.
Thank you, Mark, or not Mark. Thank you, Macnol. Thank you, Black Cloud. Thank you, Arrow. Thank you, everyone in chat who came and listened to us talk about DFFOO for about an hour and a half tonight. Even though we had to change things up and I had to host and we had to do it a little bit crazy. Yeah, sorry, I can't rant and ramble like Mino can, and without Mino and Mark here, we are doing things a little more relaxed tonight. I don't want to keep everyone here, and I actually am exhausted tonight, so we will call it early. There's not going to be any post-show either because we're doing things a little more relaxed.
Yeah, it's not really a short stream. We talked for over an hour already, an hour 15. I'm actually holding back because I could talk for like half an hour about Brave Reduction and how people are making a big scarecrow out of it, and it's not a big deal at all. It's not gonna change the way you play in any way. And I was kind of hoping we are gonna to listen to BC talk about Garbage Time 3.0. I'm sad we missed it.
Nah, I
But
need to yell at Mino for that. It was
yeah,
not insane.
yeah. Please,
It
save
feels
for that.
like I'm just beating up someone who's tied up. It's not a real fight.
But yeah, it was really fun. I'm glad I joined you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this game a long time if I really wanted to, but I know I want to respect the other host time, and maybe there will be more casual streams or something in the future because loves doing those off stream nights. And Kriese, you got to tell him about what you've been doing this past week on the channel too. With the siesta.
Yeah.
I guess I'll do a little shout out for myself after I let everyone else do their own shout out. So we'll wrap up with that. So Macnol, do you want to do any shout outs for what you do?
Yeah, of course, I never pass up any opportunity to plug my site. It's thecdiainfo.com. You can find boss guides, Chocobo panel guides, and all kinds of information material I can find. Because the real goal of the site is helping everybody being able to complete content and learning to play better. I know if you guys are listening to this podcast, you are already in the upper echelon of players. It's not, really, if you guys are interested enough to listen to a podcast, you are for sure more informed than the vast majority of players. So spread the message around. Help them know about TCC, about our other content creators or the other information sources, because we really, really want to see everybody get prepared for the Lufenia difficulty when it finally comes, because otherwise we might see people getting shocked with the shock of reality, seeing the fights getting more difficult and maybe dropping the game.
Black Cloud, do you have any shout outs to do?
You can find me on YouTube at Black Nero.
I
I play
posted a
both.
link to his channel, which for some reason gave me gobbledygook, but I don't know why that is.
Nice. I played both global and the Japanese version for some reason, and my goal on my channel is generally to try and fill in knowledge gaps that things people don't really talk about, just like weird underhyped units, trying to dispel rumors, just shining light on things that don't really get addressed much. That's what I try to do often. I upload all the content I clear for the most part, so if you're looking for probably some kind of change of pace, you should probably follow me on YouTube. And I hit 500 subscribers last week with my squall video. I'm gunning for 1,000 now, so seeing how soon I can get there. So yeah, follow would be cool. Or don't, I don't care.
Arrow, any shoutouts?
Yeah, I've been making YouTube content clear since near the end of the EX era, back like that far, so end of 2018. I just recently got a capture card that came in today, so hopefully this means like I can start finally commentating on stuff like all these other cool people I know do, and hopefully I can explain some of my thought processes, and you guys will maybe learn to appreciate some of these weird characters that I do. I would love that. So that would make me very happy if that were to happen. That's pretty much it. That's my updates on my channel.
And I guess I'll wrap out the shoutouts. I have been starting to stream on the Crystal Chronicles channel on off nights for a couple hours at a time. Right now, I am streaming a Final Fantasy V 4-job Fiesta run. A 4-job Fiesta run is a job restricted run where I am randomly assigned certain jobs where I am forced to use those for the entire run. At the moment, I have 3 jobs unlocked, which are Blue Mage, Berserker, and Ninja. I am currently working my way towards the Earth Crystal to find out what my final job for this run will be. Though probably I will do some off-stream grinding so you guys will not have to see me grind to about level 28 or 30 before I leave World 1. So we'll see. But those are a little bit more sporadic and a little bit more random. On top of that, I have recently acquired an HD capture card that I think I might be using in the near future to stream some other miscellaneous games to my own personal channel, which has had 0 streams before in the past, but I might be doing something in the future. We'll see how that happens. It's all nebulous at the moment, but keep your eyes and ears open for that. I'll let you know if anything does pop up from that. So, with that, I think we will end our unofficial random special guest podcast for the week, and we will see you next week. Just a reminder, I believe we do have a Square Enix official live stream planned for next Monday. Anyone know if I'm correct on that?
They generally do them on the last Monday of the month, but they have
I
not
don't think it's
officially.
official yet.
Yeah,
It's not
nothing's
official?
official yet.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was official or not, so we will likely see the next live stream next Monday, but don't quote me on that. Mark might get this to streaming services and YouTube and everything, so we'll see how that goes. Thank you everyone on Twitch for joining us. We'll see how this goes, and hopefully next week we'll be back to our usual podcast with Mino and Mark, and all technical issues will be resolved, and you will not have to rely on just me and my friends for your DFFOO news. So have a good evening.